Assalamu alaikum, everyone. A very good afternoon and a good morning to all of you, wherever you are. Thank you for your patience. To all those who have already joined the webinar. And there are a few more people in the lobby I can see. We will start the webinar. I'm sure more people will be joining us. I welcome you all to our webinar series, Cambridge in Pakistan, Conversation to Support a Cambridge Learner's Journey. My name is Hira Sajjad. I'm working as a Senior Recognitions Manager at Cambridge, Pakistan. And I'm joined by my colleague Nabia Manear, who is working as a Recognitions Manager for South Pakistan with Cambridge. So before we commence, I want to share a brief introduction of the recognition function with all of you. What is our role and responsibility here, and what is the function usually responsible for? As you all know that our qualifications are being offered globally, so we work very closely with A-level schools and higher education institutions. The core role of recognitions is to ensure all universities, including those in Pakistan, accept our qualifications, and how we facilitate the progression of students to universities and bridge the gap between schools and higher education institutions. We collaborate with educational institutions to ensure students develop the skills and knowledge they need to thrive both academically and professionally. And we also raise awareness regarding the different programs, which there could be emerging programs as well that universities offer. So we are resuming this webinar series after the feedback that we have received from students and counselors, and will be addressing topics where you need us to support you. We previously also conducted a few webinars in which we offered insights into admission policies, requirements, and trends of leading universities, as well as universities in emerging destinations such as Turkey and Germany. We have also organized webinars in collaboration with leading national universities. A recording of these webinars is available on our website and also available on our YouTube channel. We will be sharing these links with you. Um, I would also request if you could please keep your mics on mute at all times. If you have any questions, you can use the Q&A tab, or if you want to post them in the chat box, even that's fine. We will be taking these questions towards the end of the session. I will now hand over to my colleague Nabia to introduce you to today's webinar topic and to our esteemed speakers. Over to you, Nabia. Thank you.
Thank you. So for our first webinar, we decided to focus on UK as we received suggestions from most of the student counselors we had met. UK has been one of the most popular study destinations for our students, and so we decided that we are going to look into this first. The topic for this webinar is Expanding Horizons, Exploring the Benefits of Higher Education in the UK. We are joined by one of Greater Manchester's leading universities, the University of Salford. And this particular session, we are going to focus on the benefits of higher education in the UK, the trends, the admission requirements, how students can navigate the challenges in UK, and what are the investment returns or employment opportunities in the UK. So now when I move on, I'm going to give you a brief introduction of our speakers. Petra Olsen is the Senior Recognitions Manager in UK, Ireland, and Northern Europe. She has been associated with Cambridge International Education for years, and now he's going to give you a brief about the admissions processes, the trends in the UK. I would request you all to please mute yourselves. Thank you. Our second speaker is Nick Croft. Nick is the Senior International Officer in Europe, Pakistan, and Middle East. He is associated with the University of Salford, and he is also an alumnus of the University of Salford himself. So I will be now moving on to discussing the benefits. So I will first invite Nick to give us a brief of the University of Salford. Over to you, Nick.
Thank you very much. I was going to say good morning, but it's I know it's afternoon in Pakistan now, so good afternoon to you all. Thank you for joining us. It's a real pleasure to be here. As has been stated, my name's Nick. I work at the University of Salford. I've been working there since 2012. Prior to that, I worked for two other British universities. So I've been working in international higher education for just over 20 years now. And I've had a long association with Pakistan. I first visited in 2006. I've been there 8 or 9 times since. I've been there twice just this year. I was most recently in Lahore and Islamabad in July of this year when it was very warm. Some very welcome sunshine. We've had a really bad summer in the UK. So I'm very fond of Pakistan. I have a long association with it. Just want to give you a very quick bit of background on the university. University of Salford is based in Manchester, one of the key cities in the UK, located in the northwest of England. If you look at a map of the UK, Manchester is very central, and Salford is a part of the Greater Manchester area. So we're a little bit like Islamabad and Rawalpindi, kind of twin cities, except that we're closer. So you can walk from our main campus into Manchester city centre. It takes about 15 minutes, very, very close. If you take public transport, it takes about 5 minutes. We have quite a long history. We were founded in the 19th century, originally as a College of Science and Engineering. We went through a couple of metamorphoses since after that, and we were eventually granted full university status in 1967. We're what's called a public or a state university in the UK, which means that we have approval from the government, and we're not run for profit. All of the income that we generate is put back into employing staff, building facilities, improving teaching, all that kind of thing. As I mentioned, we're very, very close to Manchester city centre. There are a number of universities in Manchester now, and it seems to be growing every year. But there are three very large ones. We're one of those, and we're very accessible for Manchester itself. A lot of our students live in and around the city. We're about a mid-sized university in UK terms. We've got about 21,000 students on campus. We do have more students overseas in a couple of franchises, and we have students also studying online via distance learning with us. So I think in total now we're edging up to about 24,000 students. And we have two campuses. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. About 15% of our students are from outside the UK, so it's kind of edging up above kind of 3,500 students now. And Pakistani students are our third largest group of internationals on campus. We do also have a very large population of British students with Pakistani heritage. As you may know, I imagine some of you will have relatives in the UK, and there's a very large kind of immigrant Pakistani community in and around the northwest of England, around Manchester and Yorkshire. So it's one of the reasons that we do get a lot of students coming from Pakistan. If we could have the next slide. Thank you. Excuse me. We are fairly broad in the subjects that we offer. We cover pretty much most subjects. About the only things that we don't do are education and medicine. So if you wanted to become a teacher or a doctor, unfortunately, we can't provide that. However, we do cover most other things, and we do health sciences. So if you're interested in nursing, public health management, physiotherapy, psychology, social sciences, anything like that, we do provide those. We just don't do full medical degrees. The names, we're basically, like most universities, divided into a number of departments. Some universities call them colleges or faculties. We just happen to call them schools. We have the Business School, School of Arts, Media and Creative Technology, Health and Society, and Science, Engineering and Environment. And they give you a pretty good idea of the sort of subjects that we do within those. We also have our Salford Languages School, which covers English language, also foreign language teaching as well. I was doing a short course with them last year in Arabic, and they also look after our International Foundation year, which quite a few students from Pakistan come to do if they're not quite at the stage where they would be able to begin a degree. And we offer programs like most British universities, all the way through from foundation, i.e. pre-degree level, through undergraduate and postgraduate taught degrees to postgraduate and postdoctoral research. And our programs are recognised all over the world. As I mentioned, we do have the Royal Charter from the UK government, so we are a fully accredited and recognised university in the UK. And I think that's, yeah, next one. Thank you. Our number of students from Pakistan has grown quite rapidly. We are very fortunate now to be welcoming over 400 new Pakistani students every year, and that just seems to be increasing every year, which is very nice. I mentioned that Pakistani students make up our third largest group of overseas students at Salford. So there's a Pakistani society, which involves both students who've come from Pakistan and students who are British who have Pakistani family heritage, which is really nice for them to be able to meet each other and make friends. In terms of the breakdown of the subjects that our students from Pakistan study, as you might expect, science and engineering is really popular. About half of our Pakistanis do subjects in those areas, perhaps things like data science, computer science, software engineering, physics, mechanical engineering, that kind of thing. Also very popular, again, no surprise, subjects in business, finance and management. We have quite a broad suite of business, finance and management programs, quite specialist ones at postgraduate level. At degrees, they're a little bit broader to give you the chance to experience a lot of different subjects. So there's about another 30 to 35% students from Pakistan doing those. And then the remainder would be doing courses across health sciences or arts and media. We are particularly keen to promote our programs in arts and media in Pakistan. I think there's quite a lot of potential there. And that school covers everything from television, film and media, through traditional humanities like history, politics, international relations and English literature, to artistic and creative subjects like fine art, fashion, music, performance, theatre, all that kind of thing. The majority of our students from Pakistan come and do one-year postgraduate programs at the moment, but the undergraduate number is starting to rise, which is very encouraging. So hopefully that just gives you a bit of a background on University of Salford, kind of what we do, what we can offer. I think I'll hand over to Petra now. Petra, is it your bit now?
I think Nabia, can you bring up the slides, please, for my part?
Yes. So now we have Petra Olson, who will be sharing the understanding the admission process with us. So over to you, Petra.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm very pleased to be able to join you all today for the session about studying in the UK. I'm responsible for the recognition of the Cambridge International qualifications in Northern Europe. And I work very closely with universities and other stakeholders in that area. So today, in the next few minutes, I'll be talking about politics, data, admission requirements in UCAS. So it's going to be quite a lot of different topics. So let's get started with politics. So we have a new government in the UK, as you will probably know. So what will this mean for international students coming to the UK? Well, we don't actually know yet. I mean, the government has only been in place since July. But so far, we are hearing good things. So Bridget Phillipson, who is the new Education Secretary, did a speech 2 months ago where she openly expressed her support for and the importance of international students. So the government also said that they will keep the 2-year study visa that is currently in place. So to be continued. Can I have the next slide, please? Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So let's continue with some data about Cambridge international students from Pakistan studying in the UK. We receive very good data from UCAS every year with numbers and where students go, which universities and what they study, and we can spot a few trends from the numbers we got for 2023. So first of all, the number of students from Pakistan applying to UK universities have been quite steady in the last 5-6 years. It's been a little bit up and down, but we'll have a look at that in the next slide. But overall, the numbers have stayed about the same. And another thing we notice, and which is different from some other source countries, is that Pakistani A-level students attend a large range of universities, so not just the top 20 or only in London that we see elsewhere. So that is quite interesting to see. And yeah, offer rates have gone back up after 2 years of adjustment for COVID. And business studies, law, and computer science are the most popular subject choices. Now, next slide, please. So here we can see the number of applications from 2018 to 2023. So the top line here is the number of applications. And as you may know, students will have 5 choices. So that's why the number looks quite high. But there was a spike in 2021, but the number has gone back down and has remained stable since then. The offer rate is the line in yellow. There were few offers made, as you can see if you look carefully, in 2021, 2022, and that was a direct consequence of the COVID years when many universities had to accept more students than they really had place for. So after that, they were more careful in their offer making. So that was the general thing and not specifically for international or Pakistani students. The pink line represents unique applications, so the actual number of applicants applying from Pakistan with international A-levels. And the bottom line are we can call them the placed students, the ones that have received offers, accepted, and met their grades. So that's really what we will be looking at. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that A-level students from Pakistan attend a large number of UK universities, and you can see that here. I think there are about 34 universities here on this graph, and these are the top ones that were applied for together with the offer rate for that university. And the tail goes on. There are many more universities who received applications from Cambridge A-level students in Pakistan. Next slide, please. Yeah, and here you can see where students were accepted and placed. And here, I think there are about 40 universities here. And you can also see if you can spot Salford in there. University of Salford is part of this as well. So that's good to see. Next slide, please. And finally, here you can see the top subjects where Pakistani A-level students went on to study at UK university. And as you can see, there's business, law and computer sciences, social studies and engineering, biological sciences, the quite traditional subjects that we see is in the top. Next slide, please. So what are the admission requirements for students who have done the Cambridge International A-levels? Universities will look at Cambridge International A-levels as a British A-level. So when you look at requirements on websites, it's the same, say for IGCSEs. When you look at the UK university, they have varied entry requirements. They are based on how competitive the course is, and also it will also require specific subjects in many cases. But what they will do is most of them will require 3 international A-levels. They will also look at IGCSEs or O-levels, depending on what students have done. And for English language requirements, they will all have English language requirements, and many of them will accept IGCSE English or O-level English. But always check with university directly because there might be differences there. If your students have done IPQ, very often if they receive a good grade, some universities will give a reduced offer for those students. So that's worth checking as well. And of course, some courses, very competitive courses, will require admission tests or portfolios or interviews. So it's very important to check with universities what they require. So in general, the university will take a holistic approach to admission. Just because they say a certain grade, it doesn't mean that if a student achieve those grades, that they will receive an offer. So university will look at other things like the personal statement, like the IGCSE grades or O-level grades, etc. And yeah, as I mentioned, it's really important that students check the requirements directly with universities. Next slide, please. So here's an example from UK University. This is the University of Exeter for their biomedical science course. And you can see their typical offer will be A-levels ABB. But then you also see that they also said you can click to see the full requirements. Here are the full requirements, and it says, yes, you need ABB, but you need to have an A and a B in biology and another science subject. So it's important to look at those specific requirements. And click, yeah. And if you look for English language requirements, you can click and see here. And here you can see that the university will accept O-level English at grade C or IGCSE English as a first language and second language at grade C or B. Okay, so let's look at the UCAS admission process. So first of all, deadlines for 2025 applications. For anyone applying to medicine, veterinary sciences, and dentistry courses, or any course at University of Oxford and Cambridge, the deadline is the 15th of October this year. There'll also be, for these courses, there will be admission tests required for most of them. So students will have to plan well ahead. For most of the courses, the deadline, this cycle is the 29th of January. And if we're looking at the whole application process as a timeline, it could look something like this. So January to September, about this time, students will research and plan what they're applying to and where. September, so earlier this month, the applications opened for UCAS, so students can now actually submit their applications. And then, as I mentioned, mid-October is the first deadline for Oxbridge Medicine, Vet Science and Dentistry. And then the last Wednesday in January, so that this year is the 29th of January, is the second UCAS deadline. And that's the last point at which a university gives equal consideration to applications. So it doesn't matter if a student applies in September or if they're applying in January, university will give them the same consideration. Students can apply later, but the university might not have enough places left for them by then. And in May, by May, most students will have received offers or been told that they did not get an offer. And there will be a deadline in June when the student will have to decide among their offers which one will be their firm office, their first choice, and their insurance choice, which is their second choice. And most of the time, the second choice, the insurance choice, will have a lower grade requirements. That's why they call it the insurance choice, in case the student doesn't meet the grades. And then in early mid-August, so that's
Petra, you're muted.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Yeah, so international A-level results, they will be early mid-August, and a few days or a week later or so is the A-level results day in the UK. And international A-level students will have to wait to get their confirmation from the university until the AAD British A-level results day. And then, well, about this time is when the term starts. So that's the whole cycle on a page. So the application, when students are putting their UCAS application together, there are a few things that they need to know. First, they need to register at UCAS Hub on ucas.com, and then they'll add their details and qualifications that they've done so far. And they get 5 choices of courses. They will need to write the personal statements, and I'll give a bit more about this later. There will be in need of a reference from the school. We'll also look at that in a minute. And finally, the school will need to add predicted grades. And predicted grades are important. So if they're too low, the student might miss out on offers. If it's too high, the student will be set off for disappointment, which can seriously affect their confidence. And on our website, we have a guide to help you with this. So please have a look at that. If you click one more time, Nabia. There we go. That's what it looked like. So that's on our website. That can be helpful in order to do the predicted grades. Next slide, please. So there have been some changes to UCAS application form. So I'm just going to quickly show you where students need to add their Cambridge qualifications. So we made it easier to find the Cambridge International AS and A levels and IGCSEs. So for these, the students can find the qualifications under International and EU. From there will be a drop-down box where they will click on either A levels or International GCSEs. And from there will be another drop-down box. Click there, and they'll find specifically Cambridge International A levels, as you can see here. For O levels, on the other hand, click. At the moment, it's a little bit different, so I hope to change this soon. But for the moment, students will need to search for it. So they click all qualifications and then search for GCSE Ordinary, and then they'll find the O levels there. And personal statements. So there will be changes from 2026 that you might be aware of. So it's not this year, it's the next year, next cycle when students will be applying. So what is actually changing? Well, the personal statement, as you know now, is one big text, one big text that students need to do. I think it's 4,000 characters. But what they're doing now is to splitting this and putting. They have 3 questions that students need to answer. And the questions are as follows. So it's why do you want to study this course or subject? And how have your qualifications and studies helped you prepare for this course or subject? And what else have you done to prepare outside of education? And why are these experiences useful? So, but what is also important to understand is what is not changing. And that is really the characters is still going to be the same length, 4,000 characters, but also the content, it will remain probably the same. So the whole point of changing the personal statement is to make it easier for students to understand what universities are looking for, because not all students have the guidance from their schools and know that what the students are looking for. So really what is required right now is really the answers to these 3 questions. So I would argue that there are no changes to personal statements, but it will make it easier for students to understand what university is looking for. Next slide, please. And the other change that happened last year was in references, so I'm sure you're all aware of that. So instead of one text as well, it's now 3 boxes that school need to fill out. And the first box is really just a general statement about the school, and you will probably use the same text there for all of your students. And then the second box is that if applicable, enter. You go back, please. If applicable, enter any information about extenuating circumstances which may have impacted the applicant's education and achievement. And very often you will leave this box blank. And the third one, the third box, this is really different. Universities will have different requirements for this box, and that is usually I will usually put this on their website to see if they want to have more on the academic performances of the student, etc. And I know that Cambridge, they have very specific requirements for this box. Next slide, please. And some other useful tools on UCAS that are fairly new. So the historical entry grades tool is now available for students. So students can see the grades where students were accepted for specific courses. And also there's a new virtual work experience and subject spotlight in the hub where students can go in and do have a look at a lecture and do some virtual work experience, which can be useful when they are looking at subjects and courses. Next slide, please. And finally, I don't know if you are all currently UCAS centers. If you are not, and if you have students applying to the UK every year, I think it would be a good idea to become one. And actually, I've heard that my contact at UCAS, I met him last week, and he is in Pakistan this week, so, together with the British Council. So I think he will be advocating for schools to become UCAS centers as well. So I don't know if you will come across him while he's over there. But contact UCAS directly for any questions about this. Thank you. I can hand over back to Nick now.
Thank you, Petra. It was really, really informative. I'd just like to talk in a little bit more detail, hopefully to complement that, about what you might want to think about when you're considering which universities and which programs to apply for. So I went through the UCAS system myself a very, very long time ago, but both my daughters have been to university in the UK much more recently. My youngest is just going into a final year at Cardiff, and obviously, you know, I deal with students all the time going through the UCAS system. This is based on long experience. Hopefully, there'll be advice that will be useful for you. Obviously, the first thing you need to do is think carefully about what subjects you want to study. People might have different reasons for choosing subjects. It might be related to what they think they might want to do in their career. I would also say, obviously, you know, it's a good idea to choose a subject that you think you have some aptitude for, that you enjoy, that you find really interesting, and that you're keen to study in a great deal of depth. Because obviously a degree is 3 years of study. It's a long time. It's giving up quite a proportion of your life. So, you know, do choose carefully, and you know, perhaps discuss it with your teachers and with your parents or guardians and people like that. If you're thinking of coming to the UK to study, you also need to think about where you might want to live. The UK is not a big country, but we have a lot of universities all over, from Northern Ireland and Scotland to England and Wales. You might want to think about whether you want to live in a big city, somewhere slightly smaller. Do you want to live in a university that's out in the countryside, you know, very kind of green surroundings? Do you want to live near to relatives in the UK, or do you know anyone else who's in the UK, maybe also at university? You might want to think about proximity to them. Do bear in mind as well that cost of living can vary a bit in the UK. Generally, London is the most expensive place to live, but the other capital cities like Edinburgh, Cardiff, and Belfast can be more expensive as well, just in terms of cost of living and things like renting accommodation and socializing, that kind of thing. So bear in mind that as well. Obviously, do as much research as you possibly can. Attending a webinar like this is great preparation. There's a lot of information out there online now. Obviously, most universities have very, very comprehensive websites. We're all over social media. If you've ever looked at anything from Salford, we're on all of the social media channels, and the website is very comprehensive. You can access blogs and vlogs by our students, films, students talking about their experiences, all aspects of student life. I'll go on to talk about that in a little bit more detail in a moment. But spend as much time as you possibly can trying to get information about student life in the UK. Obviously, if you know anybody who has studied in the UK, they're a great person to ask for advice as well. They will have first-hand experience. When you're looking, obviously, once you've thought about, oh, sorry, could you just go back for a moment on the slide? Thank you. Obviously, once you've thought about what subject you might want to study, you need to find universities that offer suitable programs, because not all universities offer exactly the same subjects. If you're wanting to study something like, for example, mechanical engineering or business management, or perhaps psychology, you're going to find that those are very popular programs. Most universities will do subjects in those areas. If you want to do something perhaps a little bit more off the beaten track, as we might say, you might want to study, for example, classics or archaeology, something a little bit more specialized, there's probably going to be a smaller number of universities. Online search engines are a really good way to start. If you put in, something like study, whatever program name it is, for example, archaeology, UK, hopefully that will bring you up a fairly comprehensive list of universities that are offering those. If there are any university fairs where you live, these are organised by people like British Council, Dawn, the Dawn newspaper in Pakistan has done them a lot. Agents do them. Go along to those and talk to as many universities as you can, because there'll be people like me there, available to answer your questions. Obviously, think about the costs. They can vary quite a bit, not just in living costs, but in fees. Some universities are very reasonably priced, others are quite highly priced. So you need to think about that, think about your budget, what you can afford to spend. Contact the universities. If you go on university websites, the international pages, which pretty much everybody has, should have the contact details for somebody like me that you can contact via email or WhatsApp or telephone and have a chat with, ask questions, and ask as many questions as you can. You may know that a lot of universities work with agents in Pakistan. These are private companies who do marketing and recruitment for us on the ground, and we have quite a number in Pakistan. We work with quite a lot of agents in all the major cities in Pakistan and some of the smaller ones as well. They can be a really good resource as well. And obviously, you need to start preparing for your application as early as possible. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. When you're preparing, check the deadlines for application. When do you have to get your application in by? And that can vary sometimes depending which course or university you're applying for. Petra mentioned that if you're applying for Oxford or Cambridge in the UK, they have their own deadlines there. Check the means of application. Some universities accept direct applications at undergrad. Others ask students to go through the UCAS system. We're UCAS only at the moment. So you need to know how you can make your application. Obviously, it's a good idea before you do this to come up with a short list of perhaps maybe at most 10 universities that you're interested in. Whittle them down so that you've got a manageable number. Have a look at what the requirements for the programs are to check if you meet them. If you don't yet meet them, you need to think about how you're going to do that. So if you don't have a formal English language qualification, and your university requires it, you need to think about booking a test in, because there can sometimes be waiting lists for them. See if there's any other requirements. Universities often ask for things like interviews or portfolios or work experience. Start to get your documents together. Think about who you might want to choose to give you a reference. Petra talked about the personal statement for UCAS, which is changing, but at this point you also want to be starting to think about that as well, what you're going to put into it. And if you're using an agent, they will be a great help in this process. Or if you're doing your application yourself, which is perfectly fine to do, you don't have to use an agent. You can ask the university to guide you. They will probably also have a lot of information on their website about this process. Grab the next slide, please. Again, check deadlines just to make sure that you've given yourself plenty of time. When you're making your application, ensure you've got all your documents. Universities will generally ask for them to be translated into English if they're not already in that, and you should be able to upload those with your application. Same way, if you're applying for a job, you need to give yourself plenty of time to do it carefully. It's like doing an assignment for school or college. Again, check if your universities give you guidelines, particularly on writing a personal statement. When you're doing your personal statement, first thing it says, don't plagiarize it, so don't copy it. It's very easy to find examples of them online, and that's okay to look at to give you an idea, but your university may have guidelines itself and examples, but don't take what other people have written. Do write it in your own words and try and make it as much as possible about you. I would always say keep it very simple and clear. Don't take inspirational quotes from famous people. What we're looking for in a personal statement is to find out about you, not what Albert Einstein or another inspirational person might have said. Just talk about why you're interested in the program, perhaps your aspirations in terms of your career, a little bit about your background, perhaps that explains why you're interested in a program. And bear in mind that you're kind of advertising yourself to your prospective university. So you want to make it as abundantly clear as possible that you will be a good student who will work hard and achieve really good things. Do ask your parents or a teacher to read and check it. Double check everything before you submit, and then get someone else to check it as well. Obviously run it through a spell checker, all that kind of thing, just to make sure it's as good as possible, because even a small mistake can sometimes affect it. When you've put your application in, you need to perhaps have a little bit of patience, particularly at certain times of year when university admissions departments will be very busy. And don't be disheartened if you don't get offers for, excuse me, all your universities. It's good to aim high. If you don't get an offer from your number one university, then don't take that as too big a setback, and look on the bright side with it. The next one, please. Okay, and what to do next? If you're applying via UCAS, you might get up to 5 offers. You can choose to retain 2 of those, one first choice and one an insurance choice in case you don't get the grades for your first one. Check what the conditions are. They may not all be the same. Universities can ask for different things because we all set our own entry criteria. Again, check the deadlines for meeting the conditions because they may differ. Obviously, plan what you need to do in order to meet the conditions. Again, if you've got any questions, which you may have at this point, if anything's not clear, it's perfectly fine to contact your university or your agent to ask them for help and clarification. Start thinking about accommodation. Universities, again, will have lots of information on their website. Think about where you want to live. Do you want a shared house? Do you want to live on campus? There's a lot of different options available. Your chosen universities where you've got your offers will probably send you lots of information. So read it because, they are sending it to you for a reason. Start thinking about your visa application and give yourself enough time to do it, because in Pakistan, applying for a UK student visa can take a few weeks, particularly at busy times of years. Again, obvious stuff, but it's worth reiterating. Just check when teaching starts, because universities don't all start at exactly the same time. Some universities might be very early in September, some might be later. So think about when you need to travel, and do bear in mind it's a good idea to arrive in the UK at least a week before your course starts teaching, so you can get over jet lag, get settled, meet new friends, find your way around the university, all that kind of thing. And the final thing I think is, think about, is a deposit required for university? Most universities do ask for them, a financial deposit, and you need to check when that needs to be made by. And I think that might be my last one. Yep, there we go. I'll hand back to Petra.
Thank you, Nick. Now I'm going to invite you again to talk about student life in the UK and available support resources.
Of course, it is me. Sorry. Yeah, if we could have the first slide, please. Fantastic, thank you. I'll whiz through this fairly quickly because I'm aware that we're running slightly late on the time here. This is just to give you a little bit of an idea what student life in the UK is like, because it might differ in some aspects from common things in student life in Pakistan. The UK, as you probably know, is a very popular place for students coming to study. It's one of the favourite destinations for international students. So you're likely, whichever university you go to find yourself studying alongside students from all over the world. There will typically be a lot from places like China, West Africa and India, the Middle East. Those are very popular places. A lot from Europe, from the Americas as well. So you're likely to meet people and make friends from a really wide variety of nationalities. And this is a big part of the experience of studying internationally. You are going to meet people from different cultures, people who've traveled a long way. So that's a really nice opportunity. It's going to be quite a varied student cohort. Things to think about in terms of student life. The UK higher education system puts quite a lot of emphasis on students being self-reliant and being able to motivate themselves to work. Your tutors and lecturers will give you assistance and support. But you do also have to take responsibility for your studies. So things like doing research in your own time, doing reading, making notes, researching outside of what you're taught in the classroom. This is all very, very important. At Salford, we normally use a rule of thumb to say, however many hours you have timetabled for lectures and seminars, that might be, say, 16 to 20. For every hour you spend in the classroom, you should be doing another hour in the library or doing research or preparing for assignments or working in a group, something like that. There's a lot, you need to put in a lot of effort to get the highest grades. There will be lots of opportunities to get involved in your program. Things like people coming in from industry to give master classes, trips that are related to your program, all that kind of thing. Do take advantage of as many as you can, because that will really help you. Obvious things like get to know your tutors and fellow students, make friends. You should find that your teachers at the university, the professors, will be, accessible and friendly. It's quite an informal system in the UK at higher education. Most academic staff are happy to be called by their first names. You don't have to call them sir or madam or professor. And they'll be quite happy to chat to you. A really crucial thing is to get to know the library. At Salford, we have specialist academic librarians who are available to help students, with discovering sources, books, all that kind of thing. And our library is open 24 hours a day, so we have students in there literally all the time working. In your approach to your studies, again, I said before about not being disheartened if you don't get offers for all your chosen universities. Again, if you sometimes get an assignment where the mark isn't as high as you hoped it would be, don't take it too hard. Studying at university is meant to be difficult. It's meant to be a challenge, and that's how you will improve and grow in your knowledge and abilities. So don't worry too much. If you don't understand everything straight away. I mentioned that I took an Arabic class last year. One of the hardest things, probably the hardest thing I've ever tried to study. So I can speak from experience on this. Obviously, go to all of your classes, unless you're unwell, you should be going to all your classes. Make sure your attendance is good. Get there in, at least 5-10 minutes before the start, because nothing annoys academics more than students coming in late. Give yourself, plenty of time for your reading, research and studies. Make a timetable and try to stick to it. And do try and do the reading before your lectures, seminars and tutorials so that you're prepared for what your professor is going to be talking about. Have the next slide, please. So that's the academic side. Obviously, university is not just about academia. The main reason you go to university is to get your qualification, to learn. But there'll be lots of opportunities to do other things at universities. The social side, what we would call extracurricular, is really important as well. And you probably find that you will make friends at university that you'll stay friends with for the rest of your life. I certainly found that. There are clubs and societies at universities if you're interested in sports or cultural activities. Do go along in the first couple of weeks. They will be at the welcome events. They will have stands. You can go and talk to them. Maybe join a couple, not too many, because you do need to balance that with your studies. Try and be as open as possible to approaching people and making friends. A very obvious one, you may find there's a lot of other Pakistani students at your university, and it's great to have people from home, there, because everything about them will be very familiar, which is nice when you're living in a different country. But don't spend all your time with students from your home country, and certainly try not to speak in your language from home all the time. Do try and make friends with students from the UK. They'll be very keen to meet you and find out about where you come from. And do try and get that international experience. In terms of budgeting, it's something that's very important for students. Do set yourself a realistic budget. Think about, where you can go and buy food that might be a bit more economical or cheap. If you like going out, then, set yourself a reasonable budget for going out for meals or going to the cinema or going to concerts or whatever, and do try to stick to it so that you don't find yourself running out of money. When you first get there, to your university, find your way around the campus, familiarize yourself with where everything is. It might be quite a big campus, it might be in a city centre, might be quite small and easy to find your way around, but particularly think about where's the library, where can you go and work, where are your lectures going to be, where's your particular school office, so that you know who to go and talk to if you've got any concerns. Find your way around like that. Also, take the time to explore where you're going to be living. Now, that might be a town or a city. Find your way around, get familiar with it. Maybe try and meet some local people. Taking a part-time job can be a really good way to do that. You are allowed to work part-time on a student visa at the moment, up to 20 hours a week, depending on what sort of visa you have. And a lot of people find that obviously it's a really good way to earn some extra money, but it is also a nice way to meet local people, get some experience, looks great on your CV, and it's a good thing to do. And as I say, just try and meet and make friends with people outside of the university there. Get the next slide, please. In terms of help and support, hopefully your time at university will be really enjoyable and stress-free. Your university will have comprehensive support services. Find out what they are. I would say register with a GP, which is a UK doctor, like a family doctor that you would go and see if you became ill as soon as possible. A lot of universities will have a doctor's surgery on the campus. We do at Salford. Register them straight away. Then if you do become ill and you need to go and see a GP, you can do that very easily. Open a UK bank as soon as possible to get that sorted out. Again, in many cases, you can do that before leaving home. Check your accommodation details. Just make sure that you know what's involved there. If you need help with anything, ask. I can't tell you how many times I've met students who have had a really small problem and they haven't done anything about it because they've been worried. They've left it and it's got worse and worse and worse. And when they do come to you, you kind of say, well, yeah, we can sort that out for you. But if you told me 4 weeks ago, we could have sorted it out much more easily. So if there's anything you're concerned about, anything you need help, ask. And if you're not sure who to ask, just speak to anybody, stop a member of academic staff at the university or go to the main student centre and just say, look, who do I need to talk to about this? And I guarantee you they will have somebody who will be able to help with pretty much any problem that you might have. check in with your friends, help them, and they will help you. You know, you build up a good friendship network that you need people like that to support you. Sign up for any news alerts from your university, keep on touch what's going on, because there will be all sorts of events going on at the university that you might be interested in. And most universities will have apps where you can get this sent to your phone. And I guess, you know, don't panic if everything doesn't go according to plan, because, you know, life doesn't always go according to plan, but most difficulties can be surmounted quite easily. And as I say, universities will help you. We are aware that students face various challenges when they're coming to the UK, and we've got stuff in place to help you with that. And I think maybe last slide. Oh, there we go. I am aware we haven't got a lot of time yet left, so I'll whiz through this very, very quickly. If I could just get the first slide, please. In fact, yeah, it's the only slide, so we're nearly finished. Something you want to think about, you know, very important. When you are considering coming to study overseas, it's a significant investment of your time and money. You know, coming to the UK to study or going to any country outside of your own study is not cheap. So, you know, you need to know what you're going to be getting in return for that significant investment of your time and money. Obviously, UK university qualifications are well recognised and highly valued worldwide. So that gives you hopefully a good head start in your career. Your university in the UK will provide you with very good careers advice. There will be opportunities to speak to professionals, employers, people in industry. Something that it's something that we do very well at Salford, you know, and enabling students to network with professionals, to do work experience. A lot of universities offer this now. And again, you know, worth taking advantage of. There is the opportunity at the moment to stay behind for 2 years after your studies on a graduate work visa in the UK. So you can stay and work after you finish studying. Keep your CV regularly updated, keep a log of new skills you've learned, think about what you've achieved. Start talking to employment agencies while you're at university. You might want to talk to them initially about finding part-time work, but then you might also want to talk to them about opportunities after you've finished studying, and start looking at what, you know, think about who you might want to work for, and what opportunities they have for graduates. Again, you know, it's a good idea to do this as early on as possible. You will find that, you know, universities in the UK hopefully have very good support departments in all of these areas. So again, find out what's out there and take advantage of it while you can. And I guess finally, you know, I'd just say, remember that not all benefits are going to be financial or directly related to work. So, you know, you will hopefully grow as a person, you'll become more mature, more able to cope with the challenges that life throws at you. You become more independent, able to manage your money, manage your life. You know, you'll have really hopefully interesting and enriching experiences living in a different country. Your English language skills will improve even more. So you'll find that a lot of the benefits, hopefully, that will last you throughout your life, are perhaps things that aren't directly related to work. So don't think about it just in terms of, you know, your salary or your career. There are other benefits as well. I think that is probably the end of my bit. Yeah, there we go. And if you're interested in coming to Salford, you're very, very welcome to contact me directly, and we'll have a chat.
Thank you, Nick and Petra, for such a detailed overview of both Salford and the admissions process, and also how students can navigate the challenges when they transition to any university out of their home country. So we're going to open the floor for questions now. We have the Q&A tab. I would request everybody to share their questions there or in the chat box.
I can see that somebody's asking more information about personal statements, and I maybe ask Nick if you can give an example what Salford is looking for in personal statements.
Yeah, absolutely. it doesn't surprise me that we've got a question about that, because that is something I get asked about quite a lot. Students perhaps not understanding exactly what's needed from a personal statement. I guess the first thing you need to think about is the fact that there's often a limit on how many words you can put in for a personal statement. It may be as low as 400 or 500 words, which is not a lot really. Um, what I would say a good approach is to write quite a few drafts of it, and perhaps write a long one to start with, and then look at how you can trim it down to the particular word length that it needs to be, if there is a limit on it. I would say keep it as clear, straightforward, and succinct as possible. Make sure you don't repeat yourself. You only need to say things once. The key thing, I guess, to think about is as I said before, it's your opportunity. It's like a job interview. It's your opportunity to show a little bit about yourself, why you would be a student that the university would want to take. So you probably want to demonstrate things like, the fact that you can work hard, that you can concentrate, that you're enthusiastic about a subject, what that you're already thinking about, perhaps what you want to do afterwards. From my point of view, enthusiasm is probably the first thing that I look for in a student. I would rather have a student with slightly lower grades who's enthusiastic and going to work really hard than somebody who's already got very high grades but isn't going to put in the work. We want students who are going to get involved, as I say, work hard, put in the effort, because that's what it's all about. So I would say, if you can cite examples of achievements in your own life, perhaps where you've overcome difficulties or challenges, that's really good to mention in there. Any extracurricular activities that, show that you're a person who is interesting, so perhaps you've been involved in a sports team or a debate team or a cultural society. Perhaps you've done some voluntary charity work. Perhaps you've had a part-time job. Perhaps you've worked for your parents, something like that. These are all good things to put in there. And as I say, don't put in inspirational quotations from famous people. Nobody wants to read those. Keep it very clear. Um, you will probably find that universities on their websites and people like UCAS will give examples of good personal statements. So look some of them up and try and think about, why they're good. And, as I say, ask your teachers for advice as well. They should be able to help you. I noticed we got a question there from Zubair, just talking about scholarships. A lot of universities in the UK do offer scholarships. They can vary in amount. We do offer them at Salford. They're partial scholarships. So for example, on a program that costs maybe 16,000 pounds a year, you might be able to get a scholarship up to £3,000 or £3,500. So it's not going to pay the full fees, but it is quite a welcome reduction in the fees for you. So bear in mind that when you're thinking about your budgeting. Scholarships are awarded by different universities according to different criteria. We all have the freedom to set our own scholarships and decide what the entry criteria for them will be. At Salford, we keep it fairly simple. We just go on academic merit. So if you're getting above a certain grade on your HSC or on other qualifications, then you would automatically qualify for a scholarship if your grades are above a certain amount. And we don't have a limited number. Any student who achieves that grade would receive the scholarship. But have a look at your chosen universities, see what their scholarship criteria are. Ours are on our international page. It's very, very easy to find, and you can look at the terms and conditions and how to get one. I guess the other thing Subair was asking about was, scholarships sometimes, it might involve showing things like extracurricular activity, the sort of thing you might talk about in your personal statement, like achievements in sports or societies or voluntary work or that kind of thing. So, that might be a good thing to talk about in your application for a scholarship as well. As I say, at Salford, we just go on academic merit. It's very, very simple.
Thank you, Nick, for answering all of these questions. And
Thanks, everybody. I've really
Thank you,
enjoyed it.
everybody.
Have a
Thank you
good
so
day.
much.
Bye-bye.
take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.